All right, 7-1, day 2. Determining the value of a number with a positive base. So we have done this a little bit. So 3 to the 1 we said is 3. 3 to the second is 3 times 3. 3 to the third is 3 times 3 times 3. 3 to the fourth, guess what? 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So this is actually 3 and 9 and 27 and 27 times 3 and 81. You see that you always get a positive value. With negative bases, let's take a look. So negative 2 to the first is just negative 2. Negative 2 to the second is negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. Negative 2 to the third, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which is negative times a negative would make it positive if I just did those two. But then I have to take it times another negative, so we're back to negative. So negative 8. And negative 2 to the fourth, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is, that would make a positive. Those two would make a positive. So it would be positive 16. So you'll see when you get a blank value when blank. So you get a, let's look at this first one, a negative value, because that's negative. When do we get the negative? So there was right here. So 1 and 3. So when raised to an odd exponent, so 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, etc., etc., you get an a positive number. When raised to an even exponent. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Exponent. I skipped half the word. Exponent. I misspelled it there and there, but exponent. All right, so write each number as a power using a negative exponent. So now we want negative exponents. So to make 49, which is 49 to the first, raised to a negative exponent, I would have to move it and lose the positive and make it negative. So here again, I have to move it, 64, but I need to have it raised to a negative exponent. And one more time, 144 to the negative 1. So that's writing them with a negative exponent, which usually we don't like to do. Usually we say we have to simplify it. You can't have any negative exponents in the answer, but we need to know how to rewrite them with positive exponents. So I'm going to move it and lose it. So I'd have c to the third, b to the fifth. Rewrite each fraction with all the variables in the numerator. Oh, so we're just moving everything upstairs here. No matter what, they want us to move everything upstairs just to practice moving things around. So if I move this up, I have to change it n to the negative third. And if I move all of this up, we'd have 4b to the second. It's going to be either you have to keep it in parentheses and say 9x to the negative 1, or you could write 4b to the second, 9 to the negative 1, x to the negative 1. Because in the denominator, they're both just raised to the 1. So either one of those is fine. Evaluate an exponential expression. What's the value of each expression when n is negative 2 and w is 5? Again, I like to simplify first. So I'm going to write my 4. My n's going to move and lose. This is just like we did yesterday. W squared. So I have 4. W is 5. So 5 squared over n to the fourth. So negative 2 to the fourth equals 4 times 25, which is 100, over 2, negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, 16. Those are both even numbers, so I can simplify further. 100 divided by 16 is 25 over 4. So this reduces to be 25 over 4. So that would be my answer as a fraction. All right, this one, again, I'm going to move the n to the denominator. Oops, and lose it, make the negative a positive. So 1 over negative 2, 5 times 5 squared. 1 over negative 2 times 25. I think we did this one yesterday, which is 1 over negative 50 or negative 50 over 1. Excuse me. That negative can go on the top or the bottom. So it's either, you can write it as that, or you could write it as this. It's the same thing. N to the 0, remember that cancels out to be 1, anything raised to the 0. So I have 1 over 5 to the third, which is 1 over 125. 5 times 5 times 5. All right, what's the value of each of these expressions? I'm not going to do this, another page of it. You surely should do this. So you're going to finish this. And that is it. So actually, why don't you pause and finish, and then come back and check your answer. So here are the answers. I just want you to look at the third one. It said be careful. You'll see that negative w to the negative third can be rewritten as 1 over negative w to the third. So when I plug 5 in for that, the 5 is the only thing that goes in parentheses, right? So I'd have 1 over negative 5 to the third. You have to do the 5 to the third first. So exponents before this multiplication. So you do 5 to the third, which is 125, and then you make it negative. So that's the tricky one. But that's it for today.